Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Today we're talking about social media strategies for your business. My guest is Les Adkins. He's CEO of Orange SMS. He's here in Studio One. And Les, I want to ask you about platforms and if some become more popular or not, and some kind of ways to gauge how well you're doing in these systems. But before I get to that, one of the things we talked about in the previous segment was time, and time is money. Are there some free systems that we might consider using to streamline the efficiency when using social media for business?
If you Google something like social media monitoring, a bunch of free things will come up, and they have also trials, but I'm thinking Hootsuite is one of the older ones that has gotten better over time, and now they have upgrades and things of that nature. But Hootsuite will allow you to put things in, set them for a future date. Interestingly enough, several of the platforms themselves, like Facebook, and I think, I'm trying to think if it's Twitter or Facebook, I can't remember, but if you research, a lot of the platforms themselves have created their own system to post now or post later.
That's interesting.
Some of the systems, like I think it is Facebook that allows you to do that, LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's important. I've seen some people in my business that you see how many posts they're doing, and you're thinking, man, this guy's not working at all, right?
Exactly.
But really, he probably spent 30 minutes that morning and set all that up, right? And it's just worked all day.
Yeah, and a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll buy a much more like a Sprout or a Vocus or something that's a much more robust type of thing, and they'll plan their whole 6-month calendar out.
Wow.
So
that's interesting. Well, let's talk about some of the platforms, because it's an ever-changing world, right? Yes. Are some of these platforms becoming more or less important for business users today?
I would say yes. Interestingly enough, it talks about how only 20 Fortune 500 companies actually engage with their customers on Facebook, while 83% have a presence on Twitter. So you're seeing them go back and forth, and each platform is trying to vie for the business world, right? So Twitter now sends out things for Twitter for Business. Facebook just came out with a Facebook Live that kind of does that kind of competes against Periscope. But there's different things. But I think that the biggest thing is about your audience and understanding your audience and where to go. But there are, like I think we were talking in the break about Google Plus. They thought it was going to be this big gigantic thing, and it's still viable and it still has an audience, but it's not another Facebook, and I think that's what they were kind of hoping for.
Right. And you got to pay attention to, even if you're not spending money with an outside source, you are spending time. So, so back to Google Plus for a second, does it give you more Google juice?
Exactly. So I have not paid a lot of attention to the algorithms lately, but the one thing that I'm aware of, whether you're on Google Plus, it used to be if you're on Google Plus, it gave you more Google juice. I think they kind of dropped that back because of the fact that they change the algorithm so often that it's still about more organic or user-generated content. So the newer, the fresher the content is, the higher your Google rating will be.
Okay, and that's important. So let's go there. Let's talk about content. It seems to be a challenge really for a lot of people to figure out, well, if you spend all this time creating content, when are you working? But it's important. What are some tips there?
Some of the best tips. So I used to be really against content shops. I used to be very against them because if you're not creating your own content, then you're not.
It's not you.
It's not you. Yeah, it's not you, and you don't know what's being put out there for you. Yeah. I think there's now as robust as it's getting, there's a place for it as long as you're having some input into the content. So there's lots of content houses that used to just be, here's the content, use it. Yeah. Now there are more content houses out there, and I don't have any names, but that will help you to get a message and then write content based off of your objectives and your message. So I think it's got to be a mixture of both in-house and external writers even that are writing what you want them to write, but you don't have to spend the time writing it.
Okay.
It's become a big writing, it's become a big industry for independent writers.
Right.
on this content stuff.
Well, it makes sense because we're reading the newspapers and things less, and we are getting more content kind of organically, and a lot of that's coming from companies. And we're talking about writing, but also means short posts and pictures and videos and podcasts and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, video is one of the fastest growing business uses for advertising and engagement. Because, like they say, a picture says 1,000 words, a video says 1,000,000 words. So the point being is that video, you can say a lot more in video. Now, the interesting thing that I've been watching with video is businesses still think video is a 30-second commercial. It's not. It's got to be that person like you. If you were doing video, you need to be the one on the video saying, hey, here's what my company does. Hey, here's what we need your help with. These are the things that we're doing to better the community, those types of things. So it's not a 30-second commercial. It's not taking that 30-second commercial and putting it online.
Right. It's not push marketing, it's attraction.
Exactly.
Right?
It's not push, it's attraction.
Yeah, and you're providing some information which attracts them to think of you as a thought leader and think of you, when they need business.
Exactly.
What about content? If we try to create all our own content, we're not going to be doing the business we do. Right. Is it okay to share content from people out there like influencers? It's
better. Actually, you want to do that because the whole point is, if I'm just hearing from your company, and there's still companies trying to do this, if everything I read is just from you, then I'm not getting the real picture.
Right.
And I'm also not getting the best of information. But if you start sharing things about experts that don't work for your company, then you're showing that you're that thought leader. And you want to share those things with your audience that maybe they didn't find, but you're finding because you're in the industry.
Right.
So, for example, when I do certain posts, I share videos and things of that nature that may be even competing for some business that's out there. But I do it because my audience needs to know that information, and I'm not scared, like the old model, I'm scared if I show them this, they might go with this guy over this guy. Well, great. Because my whole goal is if you're not doing social media, you're not probably going to be in business much longer. So I want you to stay in business, and maybe you'll get to me.
Good point.
I
like that. And and we put out a lot of content, and a lot of people share that. And it's interesting as you talked about know your audience, and we put out content that's based. Sometimes it's based on sectors like multifamily, and we find that in our business, if some people are interested in multifamily and you start talking about office, they don't want to hear it and they'll turn you off. Or if you're talking about off vesting in apartments and you're talking to people who are in the office landlord business and REITs, they don't want to hear it either.
Yeah.
So you really got to share content that really is interesting to the person you're trying to reach, right?
Right. Well, it's outside your thinking preference.
Yeah.
So we briefly talked about that. So briefly, you have those people that you connect with. You have those people that if they were in the room, you'd walk away.
Yeah.
So, but when you're developing content, most of the times you develop content how you think. But there's a bunch of other people that
because
don't.
I think right. Les.
Exactly, and everybody thinks that they think right, and their way is the only way, right? And if you find someone who thinks differently, they're stupid, they're an idiot, they're dumb. Now, whether they are or not, they're also a potential customer or potential influencer for you. So if you can't master the ability to write content outside of how you think, the best way to overcome that is to use different types of content that have a different thinking preference and a different opinion.
Good point. And we put a sector button on the show website, so if you want to share content based on a certain sector of commercial real estate, go to our site and stay with us. We'll have more on social media for business. I'm Michael Bull. Stay with us. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty, Asset and Occupancy Solutions. Xceligent, building data everywhere. CCIM Institute, the industry's global standard for professional achievement. Valuate, easily share what-if analysis with colleagues online. And First Service Solutions, your CMBS borrower advocate. For more information on how these businesses may be of service to you, visit creshow.com.